Hey guys, John here. So, I was unfortunately on Twitter the other day. Stop trying to make X happen, Elon. X is never gonna happen. Your cars are ugly too. Getting sidetracked from the first 2 seconds. Okay, anyway, I was scrolling through some political extremism, unapologetic racism, nice drawings of absurdly proportioned anime girls, the occasional funny post that's so removed from what Twitter has become, and some politician making crap up, when I came across an individual named Ellen Historian. So, we need some context before we go further. Recently, a popular YouTube channel called The Anime Men, that's men, not man, to avoid confusion, dropped a really bad video. They reviewed the first episode of each year's most popular anime going all the way back to the 60s. The video was extremely poorly done, lack of research, reviews being truncated down to it was good or it was bad, unbearable zoomerisms such as an excess of verbiage like peak, aura, and hype. Really bad shaky cam, poorly shot, they had their dogs out like the entire time, it was pretty gross. Overall, everyone hated it, and it brought up the discussion of anime tourism. Sorry there's so much to cover before getting into the meat of this video, but we gotta eat them potatoes first. What the fuck is that metaphor? Anyway, metaphors, yes. ReFantasio. Does anyone play that game? Still in my backlog. I love JRPGs, but they are so long. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. What else is new for one of my videos? A metaphor is what the term tourist is used for. In short, it's basically people that get into a fandom, such as Japanese cartoons or, say, video games, and demand that things change to their outsider's perspective. When in reality, you like it or you don't. You know, I get that there's certain aspects of certain fandoms that one would not like. For instance, I do enjoy anime, but, you know, whenever there's a lolly in a series, I'm kind of like, oh, I don't like that. I'm not going to have a shit fit on Twitter. I'm just going to be like, yeah, I don't like that, and then move on with my life, you know? Back to the script. Don't try to change things just because it's popular and you want to be a part of something. For instance, I've never seen the popular cartoon Steven Universe. I don't like the way it looks, I don't like the premise of the story, I don't like the behavior of the fandom. So guess what? I don't engage with it. Simple as. Tourists have a tendency to actively change things that are deemed popular, and in a lot of cases, more so to conform it to their socio-political worldview. For example, check in on the AAA video game industry. I haven't played a Western-made one since like 2017, maybe even 2016, due to the nature of their ham-fisted left-wing politics. Do I care that they put them in there? No, I still have retro games, Japanese games, and indie games that don't do that, or at least don't do that to the point of parody. But a majority of these Western releases force in these like hard leftisms. Like, I was vaguely interested in that Insomniac Spider-Man series, but then I saw one of the boss fights. It was when Mary Jane was possessed by the symbiote. Not really a spoiler. Anyone vaguely familiar with the Spider-Man franchise knows that the symbiote will possess someone inevitably. The majority of the dialogue for the boss fight was basically the writer venting her frustrations with her ex and espousing her extremist feminist worldview. Yeah, also, why do bosses never shut the hell up in video games anymore? It's really annoying, especially when the boss is hard. Like, and you die every time, you gotta listen to the same shit over and over. It's annoying. Anyway, that's when I decided that that franchise was not for me. Dude, I just want to punch the vulture, not sit through a lecture of neo-Marxist postmodern liberalism. Or whatever the fuck these people believe in. Whatever your politics are, that is not the point of this video. I do not intend to debate worldviews in this video. Left, right, I don't give a shit. So go ahead and shove that multi-paragraph comment about grr, John straight white man, brr, grr, get woke, or grr, we must stop immigrants in Islam, grr, red pill, right up your fucking ass. Now, to clarify the point I was making, these people don't care about the content they're consuming, the art they're making, as long as they can get it to preach their worldviews, and even going so far as to project something that isn't there. Now, of course, there are works of art that are made with an inherently political intent, but there are way more that are not. Anyway, back to LN Historian. So, Joey the Anime Man, popular anime YouTuber, 1/3 of the formerly popular Trash Taste podcast that they shat all over when they invited he who shall not be named to inject his insane politics into, responded to the Anime Men's terrible video explaining tourism and using a good analogy to the colonist. Essentially saying these tourists are like the colonists that arrived in America and took over the Native Americans' land and said, "This is mine now, we'll change it to our liking." I should mention the Anime Men, this is getting confusing. We'll call them the Anime Boys for clarification's sake. Also, I don't think these kids are old enough to even drink yet, so Anyway, they made a follow-up. They addressed the backlash and revisited the previous video's concept with some actual research prior to the video's posting because they made some terrible reviews. And what makes a good review? Glad you asked, because I asked you. We're getting a 2 for this video. I was going to cover the Anime Boys initial video, but I'm glad I waited so I can add more content to this video, make it longer, maximize watch time, and revenue. Listen, your boy broke as fuck out here. Anyway, let's see what you guys have to say. Okay, so FoxboxTrot9436 says, for me, a review should be informative to the audience. Agree. Reviews should give the positives and negatives of a piece of media, and after all is said and done, the reviewer/reader of the review can make the decision on whether or not they want to read, watch, listen, play, or whatever is being reviewed. For me, it can vary what is important depending on the medium. For games, gameplay is essential. Is the game fun/satisfying? What is the gameplay loop? Comics, webcomics, manga. How is the pacing of the story? Too fast, too slow? Are the characters interesting? What is the overall story? Does it follow through, or is it constantly changing? Movies, is it coherent, pacing, and overall story and characters? For all these categories, I will say visuals are only important if it is distracting. For instance, if you're reading a comic and you have no idea what is going on because of the art, then it should be brought up. Okay. Gabogaberiuxes. We'll just call him Gabo, okay? Alright, Gabo here. Gabo says, the review term for a show is rather conflicted for me because in the strictest sense it would mean giving the viewer a summary of the whole screenplay of a show, which in my opinion is useless, yet many creators do so on this platform. A review should, in my opinion, have a good grasp of the scenes, events, acts, and pacing of a screenplay. It should understand why they exist, if they do or do not serve the work. That's how the reviewer can decide whether it is good or not. Close in second, there's the direction, which would involve the art, cinematography, score, and acting. These elements appeal to the more emotional sense of the viewer. They are the glaze of the work that cannot be ignored. In third place, it would be the natural creativity of the work. How original is it? How innovative? What really makes it special or stand out from the rest? Okay, so this guy's mostly talking about like movies, and this guy MSCO2SS says, I believe it's the structure of a review. That is fair. The structure is kind of important. You don't want to be confused by the review. Those are interesting points of view. Personally, I think a review should be relatively comprehensive, informative, and well-researched. Reviewing an anime based on a manga, well, who made the damn manga? How does it translate to the screen? Reviewing a movie known for its editing, don't watch it at 2 times fucking speed, the most egregious sin in the Anime Boys video. I do also think digging deeper makes for a better review. For instance, reviewing a retro game, dig into the development cycle, content, secrets, and Easter eggs. I like that little bit of flourish to a review. So, there's my mini reaction to the Anime Boys. Now, Ellen Historian, who I'm jumping off this video from, is a Twitter user that I think posts more regularly on TikTok. Well, that explains a lot. Who had a shit fit about the Anime Man. So remember when Joey gave the metaphor, the analogy of tourists being like American colonists? Well, LN here took that quite literally and said the magic G word that people that pray at the church the Blue Donkey like to say when talking about a conflict they're thousands of miles removed from. A G word that I'm pretty sure is on YouTube's no-note list. While, of course, those who pray at the Church of the Red Elephant would promptly call LN here woke, or say something racist about him being Indian. We're going to move on from the exercise in futility that is debating political worldviews and talk about what the crux of this video is actually about. A statement that came from Ellen himself, one that permeates online discourse about art time to time, a concept that all art is political. Spoiler alert, I don't agree, but let me explain why. So, all art is political, apparently. No, it's not. But what about art that's intended to be political? What is on screen now is a famous piece by Pablo Picasso. This Cubist painting is quite good in my opinion. A lot of people seem to hate on the invention of Cubism, but I quite like it actually. I do prefer his blue period the most though. Now let's assume those watching who know about this piece don't have the context for it. They'd be like, hey, that's a pretty cool painting. But what if I told you this was meant to protest the Spanish Civil War? Well, let's just forget the history for right now. How the fuck is someone supposed to look at this painting and know it's specifically protesting the Spanish Civil War? Sure, the images of war are there, but this was painted in the 30s. This could just be a general depiction of the horrors of war, or some kind of abstract piece that means nothing. The Cubist style doesn't necessarily make it easier to correlate to the Spanish Civil War. This brings to mind a cliche of those outside of the art world might utter when viewing such a work. What does it mean, though? Well, it means Spanish Civil War bad, or something. Now, pretty much everybody in the entire fucking world agrees that war is bad. If Picasso didn't say so, who the fuck would interpret this painting as that? Well, maybe I'm just asking the question because we're nearly 100 years removed from this piece. Let's go more modern. Banksy. Banksy is a notorious street artist, or graffitiist, if you will, that's known for his political art, usually aligning with left-wing points of view. Some of these pieces are apparent, some of them not so much. Personally, I think his artwork itself is a bit overrated. I think some of his pieces are far more apparent in what they're trying to say, but take this most recent one of this judge slaughtering a protester. I would not know that's a judge because I'm American. You Brits seriously still put on those fucking wigs? Like, bro, how is anyone gonna take you seriously? Beans on toast, eh? Fucking fish and chips, yeah? Fucking tea and crumpets, oi. Got a license for that. But yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell that's a judge without the context. Or that's a protester, really. It's not a very good piece of art. I've seen him do better. Anyway, what about art that gets politics projected onto it? Say, take this image of Saber from the Fate series, more specifically King Arthur, or Arturia from Zero and Stay Night. This image actually pops up a lot in the counter-argument to the claim that all art is political, usually accompanied by the phrase, okay, explain the politics of this. Now, what if I told you this could be interpreted as a racist image? It could be, really. Hold on, hear me out. See, it could be in reference to the JetBlue passenger who is yelling slurs while wearing a Burger King crown. Also, bro, blonde hair, blue eyes, Aryan? Big yikes, everyone. Just like that Sydney Sweeney great jeans. What? That's racist because I'm Aryans and I'm literally Nazis. You see what I did? It's called projection. The people that claim all art is political are constantly politically brain-rotted. They're consuming these news shows 24/7, so they see this shit 24/7 when it's not there. Now, how does one project onto a piece of art or media so easily? Stay tuned for the next segment, I'll show you. Okay, so on to the next segment of this video. What I'm essentially saying is that it's really easy to project politics onto literally anything. One can sculpt the media they consume to supplement the affirmations of their worldview. I'll give you an example. And I finally get to talk about one of my favorite TV shows. Have any of you guys ever watched the show Supernatural? I will be spoiling seasons 1 through 4 of this 15-season series. I do recommend watching it though, particularly the first 5 seasons, so spoilers ahead for that. Okay, so the premise is that these two brothers, Sam and Dean Winchester, are monster hunters. This is a version of our world populated by monsters and demons, and later on in the series, angels. So the story goes, their mom is murdered by a demon, and their dad raises them to be hunters, and eventually it turns out that the devil is going to be released from hell if they don't stop the seals of the apocalypse from breaking. So at a certain point, a demon named Ruby comes along to help the Winchesters. Now, Dean, wise in his years, knows that hell isn't sending their best. They're sending their rapists, their murderers, their drug dealers, and some of who he assumes are good people. Sam, the bleeding heart liberal that he is, thinks that with... I'm sorry, I just called Sam a bleeding heart liberal. Sam, the bleeding heart liberal that he is, thinks that with Ruby's help and her blood, yes, he becomes a drug addict for demon blood, which gives him superpowers. This show is insane and I love it for that. He could stop the devil. Now, Dean wants to send the demons back to hell and put up a great big wall. A big, beautiful wall. It's gonna be huge. And in short, basically, Ruby manipulates Sam into freeing the devil because hell isn't sending their best. You see what I just did there? You see how I simplified the plot of the show, oversimplified it. You see how I managed to turn hell into foreign countries and demons into immigrants. You see how this shit isn't in the actual fucking show, and I quite easily managed to project that onto the series almost effortlessly. It's sort of the same thing that breadtubers do when they say old Nickelodeon cartoons being communism good, actually. It's all bullshit that means nothing. Supernatural is just entertainment, bro. And honestly, it's more about the Winchesters' relationship than all that demon stuff. Anyway, let me know if you guys want me to do a ranking every episode of Supernatural a la LS Mark. Love that show. Anyway, I can do that projection thing again, easily. I've recently started playing through those Kingdom Hearts collections that came out on Steam a while ago. I've only played 1 and 2 in the past, so you're probably watching me play Chain of Memories for the first time on screen. But despite its convoluted plot, I can say that this game is about fighting against fascism. Sure, why not? Spoilers for KH1, from 2002. 23 years ago. Fuck, I'm old. Riku. So Riku is Sora's best friend, but when Destiny Island gets consumed by the darkness, they get separated. Eventually they meet up again, and Sora's like, meet my friends Donny Boy and Goofus. Then Riku pulls an Irish exit, and Maleficent's all like, feel the dark, or whatever. Dark being the powers of fascism. When we reach Hollow Bastion, Riku's become drunk on power after the Disney villains taught him about tyranny and shit or whatever. Boom, now it's a neoliberal fantasy about fighting the fascist. Sure, there's some connective tissue to work out, but it's pretty easy to apply political concepts on stuff that isn't there. Why not another one? Claymore. Great manga. Love the creature designs. Do think the last story arc had a bit too much going on. Review someday. Minor spoilers for this one. Anyway, Claire? Pfft. Clearly an ICE agent. The Yoma invade these villages because they wanted asylum from the other continent and needed to eat. Then the Claymores come and wrangle them up and kill them. Oh noes, what a fascist. Claire's the bad guy, actually. Do you see just how easy it is to make bullshit up if you're just vaguely familiar with modern political discourse? It's all bullshit. All art is not political, dumbass. Anyway, back to the weeb shit that started it all. So, before I get to your replies to the all art is political commentary, I just want to say something to these anime tourists that don't get it. Dude, they're just fucking cartoons. It's not that deep. Also, celebrating censorship, for lack of a better word, is fucking I'm gonna have to bleep that. But granted, I'm not having a shit fit that they didn't show Kitagawa's titties in Dress Up Darling Season 2. At the same time, I am also confused as to why they deflated Bocchi's breast in Bocchi the Rock. Like, women have boobs, dude. Get over it. Actually, she's like 16. Well, one, it's called puberty. That's when they come in. That's just a fact of life. Sorry, not sorry. And two, once again, it's a fucking cartoon. Get over it. All art is not political, but politics can be applied to anything. If you think making a metaphor about colonists equates to being in favor of a G word I can't say on YouTube, you need to have your fucking head examined. Anyway, what do you guys have to say about this topic? Huh? Let's read them after I cool down a bit. I'm getting a little bit heated in this video. It's just the idiocy. I can't stand it anymore. Okay, before we wrap up, let's see what some of you guys have to say about the utter lie that all art is political. There are also some mentions of AI messing up research because I had to cancel an iceberg that required a lot of historical research, and every search engine has implemented AI that just isn't ready yet and gets shit wrong all the time, and that was a run-on sentence. So that's why there are some mentions of that. That's a discussion for another time. Anyway, let's read them. Hello Atelier, a friend of the channel, Patreon, sent some fan art in, like that piece, look at it all the time, says, I don't believe all art is political. It's more the perspective of the people viewing the art and forcing their subjective opinions onto it. Exactly. Somebody took my deeply personal vent paintings and told me it was associated with the political party. I kicked them down a flight of stairs if given the chance, or stomp on their toes. Either or. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I don't know how anybody could take my characters and associate them with a political party or movement. I feel it's just a perspective thing. Buddy Tropic here says, all art can be political based on how someone may interpret or look into it, but I don't give a fuck. Exactly. Like I said earlier, you can project politics onto anything. Largenheim 2032 says, art changes depending on the person viewing it. I might see a cactus while someone else might see a plume of smoke kind of thing. Of course, art can have a truth, but theorists might still try to disprove or prove their own ideas of it. We do this all the time with TV shows. Is there a twist filling? Is there some kind of movement here? Are these two characters going to get together? You know. In my case, my art is nothing but memeable cringe garbage. Oh, come on, don't put yourself down. But to me, it's therapy. Facing dark things because I can't let the dark rot in me. Most people wouldn't think that looking at it, but I don't think they're bad for thinking that. Perspective is just one of the things that defines us as individuals. They see politics, you see creativity. The only things we can control is ourselves. They can believe it's political all they want, but the truth is immovable. Some people are willingly content with theory and opinion if it speaks to them more than the truth does. Probably Unhinged says, it's too bad about the iceberg. Yeah, that's with the AI stuff I mentioned earlier. I do not think all art is political. I never even heard of that before now, but I would like to know why some people think that. Well, it's because they're stupid. All art is not political. But yeah, And the majority of my viewers are artists themselves because this channel did start out like drawing videos that no one watched, but then I started covering other stuff and then people started watching. I don't know, it's weird. It's kind of weird. Anyway, in the end, all art is not political, but politically brain-rotted people will make it so. Alright, I'm getting really tired of saying the word political, so let's wrap this up. Some might say that my own comic, Doomsayer, is an inherently political work due to the nature of it being a dark fantasy where the majority of the story's focus is on the world's nobility and the politics they are involved in. However, I do not intend it to be taken as such. The majority of this story I'm crafting is about interpersonal human relationships. It just so happens that fictional politics are the backdrop for this story. But someone might come across it may not feel that way despite me, the author, literally stating my intent. Some might come across it and say there's too much blood and tits. And to them I say, don't like it, don't read it. Remember that. Remember that. Remember where people didn't like something, they just didn't engage with it? What happened to that? What happened to people? What the fuck happened to people? Anyway, I digress. Do you agree, disagree, counter arguments? Start a fight in the comments section, whatever. I've been John. This has just been my opinion. I know someone's gonna comment some bullshit proving they didn't even watch the video. And honestly, I don't care. I'm just so damn tired of this debate. Comic review coming up next. Oh yeah, we're revisiting the Lovecraft lesbians. I'll see you next time. Sayonara, motherfuckers.